sorry if you're old and you're watching this, but you'll probably understand. You've got crooked fingers. You're all like this. Someone sneezed on that. Hemorrhoids. Hello and welcome to the channel. Jamie here from JP Cars, and today I've got the Q3e Hybrid, and I've driven it a little bit. I'm not sure. This is the 45TFSIe. So what that means is that it's got a 1.4 4-cylinder petrol engine putting out 140 horsepower, coupled with an electric motor putting out 110 horsepower. It's then coupled up to a 6-speed automatic S-tronic gearbox, but having that much power isn't a good thing. I've tried putting that down on the road this morning. It doesn't go down. That car is all over the place because it doesn't have 4-wheel drive. It's just front-wheel drive, and I don't see the point in it having so much power because it cannot put it down. We'll very quickly go around the car and have a look and kind of talk about what it actually looks like, and then we'll go for a drive. So first things first, we're going to talk about the looks, because for me, it doesn't do anything. But if you're into your kind of SUVs and stuff like that, I can kind of understand why you'd like it. You know, it's high off the ground, it's got the normal kind of Audi look. You know, it's very unique anywhere, isn't it? You can recognise an Audi from a mile away. You've got these, I'm guessing, LED matrix headlights. It's all the lights in here and whatever else, and they're very bright in my eyes, and I think I might give myself a migraine. You've got this front grille that's kind of plasticky and big and Audi. I don't really know what else to say about it because it's not my kind of car. It's not something I get very excited about. These big plastic bits here, I'm going, can't we have just had more plastic bumper rather than these big hemorrhoids? Being the standard SUV and not the Sportback, you've got these horizontal slats rather than a honeycomb grille. I think the Sportback looks a hell of a lot better than this does, but that's just my personal preference. I think the grey really looks good against this silver. The alloy wheels, they're 19s, believe it or not, but they have a 50 profile on them, so they look tiny wrapped in those tyres. But of course, it is an SUV. Again, it isn't really for the looks as such. Of course, being the e-hybrid model, you've got your flap here for your electric to go in there, which Audi kindly left about 3 miles of range in, so I've been conserving that using the EV modes. This brushed aluminium that you get on your rails up here and then around the windows. The only problem I do find with this is that, like with my A4 that I had, that this gets really milky. You know, give it a couple of years, it'll be really milky and it won't look very good. And from this angle, again, it's nothing too special. I don't know, the actual looks of this car, I'm not that bothered. It's kind of, I look at it and I don't see why you'd really want one. Yeah, I know I sound unenthusiastic, that's because I am. It's got a fair sized spoiler. It kind of comes down, it's got these pieces on the outside of the window just kind of give it a bit more of a sporty profile. I do prefer the Sportback, but the only thing with the Sportback is that if I open this up, you lose a lot of space because of the way that it slopes down the roof. The problem with the e-hybrid though is that you get the electric motor and it pushes back the fuel tank, which means that the fuel tank is there. So as you can see, the fuel tank is there, which means you've got nowhere to put a spare wheel, and you've got a little bit of space here, to be fair, that you could put your charging stuff, right? But apart from that, you're then going to just end up with charging bits all over the place. And how much do you ask for one of these? That £40,480 to have a fairly unusable boot, which is kind of pointless. At least on the back, the plastics are kind of a bit more subtle. You know, this isn't quite so big and bulky as the stuff on the front bumper, so I do give Audi that. It looks a bit better. It does look a bit sleeker on the back than it does on the front. It does what it's supposed to do. I don't think that I'm the right kind of customer for this, considering that I drive the S4. So, just got back in the car because it's starting to rain, as always. Like, whenever I get out to do anything with a car, it always rains. I'm just going to give you a few stats on the car. So, 245 brake horsepower, 140 from the engine, 110 exactly. I know, it doesn't actually add up. 110 from the electric motor. 245 together when you have it on the dynamic mode, and I had it in the dynamic mode earlier and it did not grip to the floor at all. But that's because it's front wheel drive. So I don't really see the point in having so much power in this car, to be honest. You know, you're probably better off like 180 that you could actually put on the floor. It just doesn't make sense. From full charge, you can get about 25 miles of electric range. Like, is it just me? Is it just me that just doesn't understand that? Like, you can fully charge the car and it takes 4 hours to charge it, and then you get 25, maybe 30 miles of range. I just do not see the point. Anyway, getting into the car, this is something I really don't like on the Q2 that I test drove, the Q3 now, is these. It's like a witch's finger. I just don't get that design. It's not ergonomic. It doesn't make sense. Your hand, you know, it's not right. It's not the right design at all. Maybe for an old person, I suppose old people do buy Q3s. I'm sorry if you're old and you're watching this, but you'll probably understand. You've got crooked fingers. Right? You're all like this. And maybe you can like loop it in underneath. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't see why it's designed like that at all. Just don't get it. Just simple things like I was like, oh, where do I put my arm? Like that's a bit high and it's kind of jaggedy. It kind of goes that way instead of that way, so it's not very comfortable. You can't really put your hand down here, especially me. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a bit too far down. Then again, I'm very picky, I must admit. S-line steering wheel would be nice if it was kind of flat bottomed, but it's not. You do get cruise control, you get lane assist, which I hate. I've got to turn it off in every car that I go in because you're always fighting it, which probably says more about my style of driving than it does the car, to be fair. But lane assist is something that I just really don't get on with. Digital cockpit, which is nice. I love the virtual dash. I think it looks great. You get parking sensors. One thing I don't like is this screen. I've said this before in other cars that I've driven. Any touch screen I don't like. There's too much going on there. I'd say a little bit distracting. It's like having your phone there, isn't it? And fingerprints. This one already is smudged as anything, and it's barely done any miles. How many miles has it done? 3,668 miles. How many times has that actually been pressed, that unit? Probably not that much. Decent sized glove box. Brushed aluminium. Actually, that's quite nice. I do quite like that. This kind of weird pattern is the same that is in the Q2. Don't know if I like that. Bit cheap on the doors there. Bit of nice leather there. These seats, again, I think these are very similar to the ones that are in that Q2 that I test drove. You got the kind of leather Alcantara and then it's stitched in the middle. Quite nice. I do quite like that with the S-Line logo embroidered on it. Printed into it. Yeah, I don't like these gear sticks when they're kind of a tall gear stick. But again, most people drive cars with a gear stick like that. I don't, just because the S4 was really small. So again, that's just me being very picky. 2 cup holders, a bit of underarm storage there. Goes front and back, this armrest. You've got some 2 USB-C ports. I think that's the ones, USB-C. And yep, that's nice and useful, but I would prefer having a USB. But then that's just me, I'm a bit old school like that. Infotainment system, yeah, it's all right. Google Maps, just watch out when you buy a new car, because you get Google Maps for a little while and then they're like, oh yeah, that's it now. You can't have that anymore. Because that's what happened to me. Plenty of room in the back for passengers. It has got the touch lights, which I love. Same as the S4. You can just tap them and they will light up. Not in the back though, which is a shame. And yeah, there's not a lot more to say about it. There's drive select, of course. You know, you can have comfort, auto, dynamic, individual. I always just chuck it in dynamic, don't have to worry about it then. All there is, I would say, really to talk about. Not a lot more to talk about inside the car. Oh, and I've just noticed the frameless. Oh, someone sneezed on that. That's me in. There's a frameless rear view mirror, which the S4's got as well, and that looks really smart. In fact, that's like the most smart looking thing in the car, I think. Right, we're going to go and drive the car now and tell you what I think. There's already something I know I don't like. I can understand why it's there, but I just don't like it for myself. It made me feel a little sick. I know that's weird, but it just did. EV driving. EV driving. All right, switch it on. Press brake pedal and I'm going. I've never ever experienced driving an electric. Is it still an EV? Different. It's no different really though than just an automatic pulling you. Alright, let's come out of here. So it's the instant power. That's what everyone's on about. It's weird because everyone says about the instant power, but the thing is with this is it, of course, it has gears. So far, it doesn't actually feel any different to just driving a car, an auto. Am I missing something here? I don't quite get it. I think half the problem is it can't put the power down. Even just the electric though, the electric's 110 horsepower. So it's like there's not a lot of power going through it, and I know it's a little damp, but it doesn't seem to want to put any of it down. I've already used a bar of electricity already. 6 miles left on the range. Well, so far I've not really noticed any kind of difference. Let me just switch EV off. It's weird, it's as if the battery is used to take off for the first kind of gear, change gear, and then you're on to the next, and you're into the kind of normal ICE. I must admit though, it's a lot nicer being a bit further off the ground compared to usual. I must admit. And I want to apologise now if you're still watching about the fact that I don't seem very knowledgeable on this car, and the reason is because I'm not very knowledgeable on this car. I've got no real interest in the Q3. Like the Q5 onwards, I'm a bit more like, yeah, it's a bit bigger, a bit bulkier, maybe I'd have one, but a Q3, I know I wouldn't have one, so I'm not that interested in it. Oh, that's, while I'm talking, this is one thing I don't like. I can be going along, and it's got regenerative braking. So you let off, and it kind of makes you feel like you're getting pulled back, but within your stomach. It's really weird. I don't like it. Right, I'm going to pull in here, because I want to see if I can get a decent pull off with this pull off with the EV mode. So electric driving. God, it's all over the place. I'm on a straight road. Is this really what it's like to have front wheel drive? I can't remember because I've not had a front wheel drive car in ages, although I did drive the Saab the other day. It just wouldn't put it down, and it's not even that wet. Am I not getting something here? Okay, yeah, that's pretty quick, to be fair. Putting your foot down at around 50 in third is pretty damn quick. Ah, see, you can't have it in sport dynamic. You can't have it in sport mode and EV. You can only have it in dynamic EV. So I changed it down to sport, and it puts it back onto battery hold mode. So this is in sport now. It's all over the place. Yeah, don't like the regenerative braking because you literally let off the accelerator and straight away it's like brings it back, tries to charge the battery, which I do get because I had 4 miles of range when I left this morning, and then I drove about 20 miles, 25 miles, and then I had another 3 miles of electric range. So obviously the regenerative braking, where it says charge, is obviously working. It's a fairly smooth going car. Changing the gears is quite smooth. Do you know what? It's actually not that slow. Not when you're in sport. And because you're higher up, it doesn't... Maybe that's why I don't think it's so fast, because I'm higher up than usual. Because obviously, usually, I am in the S4, which is a lot lower than this is. The ride height is a lot lower. So I wonder whether I think it's slow. One, because obviously I usually drive the S4. And two, because of the ride height. Still doesn't excuse the fact it doesn't put any of the power down properly. I'm bouncing all over the road, but I was up to 60 then. I'm just going to go EV driving. This is what I'm here for. 4 miles of range. Okay, the engine definitely kicked in then. Right, I'm at 30 miles an hour. I'm in EV mode. Oh, see, it comes in and it says that the engine came on then to back up the EV. So it's bizarre. So what? So I can't just shoot off an EV fully and just use just the 110 horsepower EV? I don't know. I've been driving this car for a little bit and I kind of just don't understand why. Like, I understand environmentally friendly hybrid, yeah? 4 hours to charge the battery on this. 4 hours. So that you can drive 25, maybe if you're very lucky, 30 miles. just don't get it. So I'm currently in EV mode. I've got 1 mile of range left, and I kind of just don't get the point. It's like that, foot down. Obviously, I'm not going anywhere. It's only 110 horsepower. But if you drive like I do, you're going to whiz through the range in no time at all. So I'm at 100% now. Okay, that's it. Battery's out, and we can't use EV. And that just changed to 1 mile of range when I told you it changed to 1 mile of range, because I was keeping an eye on it. And that was it. It was what, maybe 100 meters? I know that was at full capacity, but still. So it's now in dynamic sport. This is running on the 140 horsepower engine. And do you know what? It actually goes pretty quickly. The only thing is, it doesn't stick to the ground. The front wheel drive system just doesn't keep the car on the ground whatsoever. Like a stone that's been thrown into the water, you know, skimming it along the edge. It feels a bit like that. Regenerative braking, not a massive fan. So you're driving along, like I am now, using the internal combustion engine, let off, and it kind of sucks you. Like, not, I know I just, I know I pointed there, I didn't mean anything by that. It kind of sucks you backwards, kind of in your stomach, and you kind of are like that. And when I first kind of drove it along, I was a bit like, oh, it's making me feel a bit nauseous, a bit ill. But it's okay, because what happened was I drove about 20 miles and I was using the regen braking quite a bit, because I wanted to kind of see what it was all about. Probably why I felt sick, because I was constantly doing it. And I did gain a whole 3 miles on my electric charge, which I then used in about a mile from driving it quite heavily. Like I said, a Q3 isn't really my kind of thing. It just isn't. It's not my kind of car. I don't have that much love for them. I can understand why you want one. You want your kind of first kind of SUV that's kind of a little bit bigger on the road than anything else. I don't think I'd go for the hybrid. I imagine, don't quote me on this because I don't know, because like I said, I don't know very much about these ones in particular. I imagine that the hybrid is more money than the petrol. You do lose some range on your petrol because the electric motor's in the way under the back seats, which means the petrol tanks had to go into the boot. So you don't only lose space because you can't have a spare wheel or put anything under your fake floor, you also lose, I believe, some quite a bit of literage when it comes to how much fuel you can put into the car. So I don't quite understand. I don't quite get the point. You're kind of paying more to be able to drive less distance and to have less usable space in the boot. It's not just me, is it, that sees it that way, surely. I just don't get it. I just do not get it. Yes, it might be safer for the environment, or cleaner for the environment, but is it? But is it really? When you got the lithium mines and you've also got to then charge your car, and electric in the UK at least, and as far as I'm aware, I might be wrong, please do tell me if I am, majoritively comes from burning fossil fuels. So is it just a case that we're just pushing the issue of fossil fuels being used away from our home countries? Do you see what I mean? Because you've got the lithium mines. Well, we don't have to worry about lithium mines because we live here in the UK. It's not us that has to dig it all out and deal with the consequences. It's also not us, when you're looking at, oh, look at all the emissions coming out of that exhaust. We go, oh, it's all right because it's a hybrid, so it's less, yes, but you're still having to charge up that electric car. You're still having to charge up that battery, which is done at a power station where they're burning fossil fuels. As far as I'm aware, like I said, I could be wrong, I could be totally wrong, and I'd love for someone to tell me I was wrong, and as to why, because obviously then I'm learning. But yeah, guys, to be honest, it's not very exciting. It's a nice car, don't get me wrong, it's a nice car if you're into this kind of thing. I'm just personally not. So what is my verdict? Well, my verdict is that if you like small SUVs, then the Audi is a great choice. I just don't think that the hybrid is going to work for everyone. I don't like the regenerative braking. I'm coming up a hill now and I've dropped about 10 miles an hour just because I came off the accelerator, which makes you keep your foot on the accelerator for longer, which means you're burning more fuel. I don't even know how much fuel I've used. Let's have a look. What have I done today? Here we go. So my short-term memory, I've averaged 25 miles an hour. I've done nearly 50 miles. And my miles per gallon on average with my fuel is 36.6 miles per gallon. With my electric, it's 29 miles per kilowatt hour. So I don't know what that means, so I'll put that up. It's a nice car. It does the job. It gets you around places. I think that having regenerative braking, you could probably get used to, but me personally, I wouldn't want that. It's just not my kind of thing. It makes me feel a bit ill. Quite a comfortable ride, must admit. You know, you're up and off the road. You've got the 50 profile on the tyres. Got nice big 19-inch alloys, and I'm in a dynamic mode and it feels really nice and smooth on the road. It really does. So I just wanted to check the literage on the boot because I knew that I made a few quotes on the size, but I wasn't 100% sure. I couldn't remember, so I wanted to check. So here I've got written down 530 litres for the normal Q3 and 380 litres for the PHEV. So it's like you're losing a massive amount. What's that? You're losing 30% space if you have the plug-in hybrid, and then you get a smaller fuel tank, so you've got less range. And you've also got to have your charging cables, and you lose space for a spare wheel. Oh, I don't know, having a PHEV just doesn't seem to make sense to me. I may be wrong, it might just be because I've not had it long enough to kind of know whether it's the right thing, but personally so far, not a massive fan. Anyway, thank you. It wasn't really a review as such, it was more just I had the car, just thought I'd let you know my thoughts on it as I see it. Thank you very much for watching. Please do hit the subscribe button, please do like, and please do comment and let me know what you think about the Q3. Thank you very much. I shall see you in the next one. Cheers.